This man might look like just another old political philosopher from way back, but trust me, he is not what you think. Niccolò Machiavelli was not just sitting around writing about politics. No, what he was actually doing was discovering psychological manipulation techniques that are so powerful, 99% of people today still cannot recognize them when they are being used against them right now. Most people think Machiavelli was just some ruthless political advisor, right? Well, the truth is way more disturbing than that. He was studying human nature at its absolute core, figuring out exactly how to control people's minds without them ever realizing what was happening to them. You have probably heard his name before. Maybe you have heard someone called Machiavellian when they are being sneaky or manipulative. But here is what you do not know. The psychological tricks he discovered are being used on you right now, today. Your boss uses them. Politicians use them. Even people in your personal life use them. And the scary part? These techniques work so incredibly well because they tap into basic human psychology that has not changed one bit in 500 years. Have you ever wondered why some people just seem to have this mysterious ability to get what they want from others? You know what I mean. Those people who can walk into any room and somehow end up controlling the conversation, the decisions, even the people around them. It is not charisma. It is not luck. It is because they understand something about human psychology that most people never learn. They understand the psychological principles that Machiavelli discovered centuries ago, and these principles are still just as effective today as they were back then. Now, if these psychological tricks were not understood and recognized by you, here is what happens. You will continue being manipulated by politicians, bosses, and others who use these techniques while you remain completely unaware of what is happening to you. Think about it for a second. Every single day, people are making decisions for you without you even knowing it. They are steering your thoughts, influencing your choices, and getting you to do exactly what they want. And you think it was your idea. This is not just about politics or business either. This is about your daily life. When your boss gets you to work overtime without extra pay, when that salesperson convinces you to buy something you did not really need, when someone in your family always seems to get their way in every argument, these are not accidents. These are the exact same psychological principles that Machiavelli wrote about 500 years ago. But here is the really dangerous part. If you do not learn to recognize these techniques, you are going to spend your entire life being a puppet. Someone else will always be pulling your strings. Your decisions will not really be your decisions. Your opinions will not really be your opinions. You will think you are living your own life, but really you will be living the life that other people have designed for you. The people who understand these psychological tricks, they do not just use them once or twice. They use them constantly. They use them so smoothly that you never even suspect what is happening. And while you are walking around completely unaware, they are getting promotions, they are winning arguments, they are getting people to like them, they are building power and influence. Meanwhile, you are left wondering why good things always seem to happen to other people and not to you. This is exactly why learning these techniques is not just interesting, it is essential for your survival in the modern world. So to understand why Machiavelli's psychological insights are so powerful, you need to know the real story behind the man himself. Most people think Machiavelli was just some evil advisor telling princes how to be cruel and ruthless. That is completely wrong. The truth is actually much more fascinating and much more useful for your life today. Niccolò Machiavelli lived in Italy during the Renaissance, but his world was nothing like the peaceful picture you might imagine. Italy was torn apart by constant wars, backstabbing politicians and corrupt leaders. Cities were rising and falling based on who could outsmart who. There were no rules, no safety nets, and definitely no participation trophies. If you could not read people and influence them, you did not just lose your job or your reputation, you lost everything, sometimes even your life. But here is what makes Machiavelli different from every other political thinker of his time. While others were writing about how the world should work, Machiavelli was writing about how the world actually works. He was not interested in moral lectures or philosophical theories. He wanted to understand the raw truth about human behavior. He spent years watching successful leaders, studying failed ones, and figuring out exactly what separated those who gained power from those who lost it. What he discovered changed everything. He realized that human beings do not actually make decisions based on logic or morality like they claim to. Instead, people are driven by much deeper psychological forces that they are not even aware of. Fear, pride, the need to belong, the desire to feel important. These are the real motivators. And once you understand how to tap into these psychological drivers, you can influence almost anyone. The most important thing to understand is that Machiavelli was not teaching people to be evil. He was teaching them to see reality clearly. He was showing them that while everyone else was playing by the rules they thought existed, the truly successful people were playing by the rules that actually existed, and those psychological rules are still exactly the same today. So the first psychological trick that Machiavelli discovered is something he called the art of calculated vulnerability. Now, most people think that showing weakness makes you vulnerable to attack, but Machiavelli understood something that 99% of people still do not get today. Sometimes showing a small, carefully chosen weakness actually makes people trust you more and gives you incredible power over them. Here is how it works. Machiavelli noticed that the most successful leaders were not the ones who pretended to be perfect all the time. Instead, they were the ones who would reveal small, harmless flaws about themselves at exactly the right moment. Why does this work? Because when someone admits a minor weakness to you, your brain automatically thinks they are being honest and authentic. You think to yourself, well, if they are willing to tell me this small, bad thing about themselves, then they must be trustworthy about everything else. Let me give you a historical example. Machiavelli wrote about leaders who would admit to being bad at something unimportant, like dancing or remembering names. They would laugh about it and make it seem charming. People would think, oh, this person is so humble and honest. But what was really happening was psychological manipulation. By admitting to a tiny, meaningless flaw, these leaders were making everyone around them lower their guard completely. Now, think about how this works in your life today. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to get away with everything? How they can make mistakes at work but somehow never get in trouble? How they can say controversial things but people still like them? They are using this exact technique. They will admit to small, harmless things like being terrible at cooking or always losing their keys. People think they are genuine and relatable, so when they do something actually important wrong, everyone gives them the benefit of the doubt. Politicians use this constantly. They will joke about being bad at sports or admit they cannot use technology properly. The audience laughs and thinks, this person is just like me, they are honest. But that calculated vulnerability just made you trust them about everything else, including the important things, where they might actually be lying to you. This is why understanding these techniques is so crucial, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The second psychological trick Machiavelli mastered is what he called strategic emotional mirroring. This one is so powerful and so widely used today that it is shocking how few people recognize it when it happens to them. Machiavelli discovered that people do not actually want to be understood or listened to. What they really want is to feel like their emotions are justified and validated. And once you give someone that feeling, you can guide them almost anywhere you want them to go. Here is the psychological principle behind it. When someone is upset, angry, or excited about something, they are not thinking clearly. Their emotional brain has taken over and their logical brain has basically shut down. Most people try to calm the person down or argue with their emotions, but that never works. Machiavelli realized that instead of fighting against someone's emotional state, you should match it perfectly. You mirror their energy, their tone, their level of intensity. This makes them feel completely understood and connected to you. Machiavelli studied this by watching successful diplomats and negotiators of his time. When they were dealing with an angry king, they did not try to be calm and reasonable. Instead, they would get angry too, but they would direct that anger at the same target the king was angry at. They would say things like, "You are absolutely right to be furious about this. This is completely unacceptable. We should do something about this immediately." The king would feel like this person truly understood him, and suddenly the diplomat had incredible influence over the king's decisions. This technique is everywhere in modern life, and it is being used on you constantly. Think about social media. Politicians and influencers do not try to calm people down when they are angry about something. Instead, they amplify that anger. They say, "You should be angry about this. You are right to feel this way. This is outrageous." People feel validated and understood, so they trust everything else that person says. Before they know it, they are not just agreeing with the original point, they are agreeing with completely different ideas that the politician or influencer wanted them to believe. Your boss might use this technique too. If you are frustrated about a project, instead of dismissing your concerns, a manipulative boss will say, "You are absolutely right. This is frustrating. I completely understand why you feel this way. You feel heard and appreciated." But then they follow up with, "Which is exactly why I need someone I can trust like you to handle this extra work." Suddenly you are agreeing to do more than you originally planned, and you think it was your idea. If this content is making sense to you, please click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. The scary part about emotional mirroring is that it feels so good when someone does it to you. You feel understood, validated, like you have found someone who truly gets you. But what is really happening is that your emotional state is being used as a weapon against your own rational thinking. Now, the third psychological trick that Machiavelli discovered is perhaps his most brilliant and most dangerous. He called it the illusion of choice, and it is being used to control your decisions every single day without you realizing it. Machiavelli understood that people have a deep psychological need to feel like they are in control of their own lives. They need to believe that their choices are their own. But he also realized that you do not actually have to give people real control. You just have to give them the feeling of control, and they will be completely satisfied. Here is how the psychology works. When someone tries to force you to do something directly, your brain immediately resists. You feel like your freedom is being threatened, and you want to fight back. But when someone gives you options to choose from, your brain focuses on picking between those options instead of questioning whether you should be making that choice at all. You feel like you are in control because you are choosing, but really, all of your choices lead to the same result that the other person wanted from the beginning. Machiavelli wrote about princes who were masters of this technique. Instead of ordering their advisors to support a particular war, they would present the situation like this. We have three options. We can attack now while they are weak, we can wait 6 months and attack when we are stronger, or we can attack next spring when the weather is better. Which do you think is the smartest choice? The advisors would debate passionately about timing and strategy, feeling like they were making an important decision. But notice what just happened. The prince never gave them the option to not go to war at all. He made war inevitable, but he made them feel like they chose it. This psychological trick is absolutely everywhere in your modern life, and the people using it are getting exactly what they want from you. Think about how your boss assigns projects. They do not say, "You have to work overtime this weekend." Instead, they say, "We can either finish this project by working late every day this week, or we can come in on Saturday and get it done in one day." Which would you prefer? You feel like you have control because you are choosing, but both options mean you are working extra hours without extra pay. You never got the choice to say the deadline is unrealistic or that you need more resources. Politicians are absolute masters of this technique. They do not say, "We are going to raise your taxes." Instead, they say, "We can either raise income taxes, or we can raise sales taxes, or we can add new fees for services." Which do you think is the fairest approach? People get into passionate debates about which type of tax increase is best, completely forgetting that they never agreed to any tax increase at all. The illusion of choice made them feel like participants in the decision, when really they were just picking the method of their own manipulation. Even in your personal relationships, people use this on you. Instead of saying, "We are going to my parents' house for dinner," they say, "Should we go to my parents' house on Saturday or Sunday?" You feel like you have a say in the plans, but you never got to choose whether you wanted to go at all. The decision was already made for you. You just got to pick the details. The most dangerous part about the illusion of choice is that it makes you feel good about decisions that are not actually in your best interest. You think you made a smart choice because you weighed your options carefully, but all of your options were designed to benefit someone else, not you. So now that you understand these 3 psychological tricks, you are facing a moment that will define the rest of your life. You have a choice to make, and this choice is completely real, not an illusion like the ones we just talked about. You can either go back to living the way you were before, pretending you do not know what you now know, or you can accept an uncomfortable truth that will change everything. The uncomfortable truth is this: every single day, people around you are using these exact techniques to get what they want from you. They are not doing it because they are evil or because they read Machiavelli. They are doing it because these psychological principles work so well that people discover them naturally when they want something badly enough. The difference is that now you can see it happening. But here is where it gets really interesting. Once you can recognize these techniques, you have 2 powerful abilities that most people will never have. First, you can protect yourself from being manipulated. When someone shows you calculated vulnerability, you can ask yourself, what are they really trying to get me to trust them about? When someone mirrors your emotions, you can step back and think, where are they trying to lead me while I am feeling this way? When someone gives you an illusion of choice, you can ask, what options are they not showing me? The second ability is even more powerful. You can start using these techniques yourself, but here is the crucial part. You do not have to use them to manipulate or harm people. You can use them to become more effective, more influential, and more successful in your own life. Understanding human psychology is not about becoming a bad person. It is about becoming a person who understands reality instead of living in a fantasy about how the world works. Think about it this way. Right now, there are people in your life who get better opportunities than you do. There are people who seem to effortlessly get others to like them, to trust them, to want to help them. There are people who can walk into a room and somehow end up leading the conversation, making the decisions, getting their way. You probably thought they were just naturally charismatic or lucky, but now you know the truth. They understand something about human psychology that you are just learning today. This knowledge is not just about recognizing manipulation. It is about understanding that influence and persuasion are fundamental parts of human interaction. Every conversation you have, every relationship you build, every goal you want to achieve, it all involves psychology. The people who understand this psychology are the ones who end up living the lives they actually want to live. The people who do not understand it end up living the lives that other people design for them. Machiavelli was not trying to make people more manipulative. He was trying to make them more aware. He wanted people to see the world as it actually is, not as they wished it would be. And once you see the world clearly, you can navigate it much more effectively. Now that you've made it this far, it is time to face a truth that will determine whether this knowledge actually changes your life or just becomes another interesting video you watched and forgot about. Your silence has a price, and it is not a small price. How many times have you walked away from conversations feeling like something just happened to you, but you could not quite figure out what it was? How many times have you agreed to things you did not really want to do, made decisions that were not really in your best interest, or found yourself supporting ideas that you never actually chose to support? Every time you remain unaware of these psychological techniques, you are not being neutral. You are allowing yourself to be guided, influenced, and controlled by people who understand something you do not. You are giving away your power to make real choices about your own life. And the people who are using these techniques on you are not going to stop just because you hope they work. But here is the reality that Machiavelli understood 500 years ago and that you need to understand today. An authentic life requires awareness. You cannot live freely if you do not understand the forces that are trying to control you. You cannot make real choices if you do not recognize when your choices are being limited or manipulated. You cannot become who you truly are if you are constantly being shaped by other people's psychological techniques. The people who understand these principles do not just use them occasionally, they use them constantly, naturally, effectively. While you have been walking around completely unaware, they have been getting promotions, building relationships, gaining influence, and creating the lives they actually want. Meanwhile, you have been left wondering why success always seems to come so easily to other people and not to you. So the next time you feel that familiar sensation of agreeing to something you did not really want to agree to, ask yourself, what psychological technique just got used on me? This question, if asked honestly and consistently, can completely transform your life. And remember, becoming someone who understands human psychology does not happen by accident. It happens through awareness, through practice, through the courage to see the world as it really is, instead of as you wish it would be. You were not made to spend your entire life being influenced by people who understand psychology better than you do. You have the ability to learn these same principles and use them to create the life you actually want. But this requires action, and it requires that you start now. If this video opened your eyes to something you had never seen before, if any part of it made you realize how these techniques have been used on you, I want you to comment down below. Say, I choose to see clearly. Write that down, because putting this decision into words is already a first step toward making it real. And do not stop here. Continue the journey. The next video is just as important as this one. It will help you deepen this awareness and give you even more tools to navigate the psychological landscape of modern life. See you there.